title, just in case you need one. Evidence. That's not too difficult to remember, is it?
Nope.
Just one single word. Evidence. I was examining the text this week, and I was listening to some of the commentaries and those individuals who had studied at length and had examined the historical piece behind it, geographical locations, its influence on the text and its author. And I couldn't help but notice that chapter 8 is actually suggesting that there's a completion to the conference that Jesus was just in. Chapters 5, 6, and 7 are actually an experience that Jesus has with a group of people who have followed him up the mountainside. Can you imagine that for a moment? You've got a mass of people who are following you up the mountain because the perception is that you have something they need. He has spent a length of time dialoguing with folk on the side of the mountain. He is seated because that's the proper rabbinic position for anyone who was a scholar, who was attempting to teach. He is seated. He wants to convey some truths so that somehow the people might discover how they ought to live. And so while teaching them, he addresses certain issues that he knows the people are dealing with. And so there is a litany of things that he is pulling out, knowing that these folk who are following him, if they've not already encountered these situations, they are going to when they leave this mountain. Imagine all these folk who have followed him. They are not all perfect. They don't all have it together. They are individuals who are challenged by life's complexities, and they are trying their best to figure out if there is any inroad so that somehow they can be relieved of what they are experiencing. Now, you know as well as I do, these folk who are following, they had to be individuals who had some history. You know, just like when you came to the side of the mountain. If there is any symbolism here in the text, there is a suggestion that while they are attempting to go to a place where they expect to meet up with God, they bring a lot of stuff with them. If we move it from the first century into the 21st century and recognize that we personally, when we arrive in a place where we're expecting to meet up with God, there's a lot of baggage that we bring with us. I mean, after all, if you are anything like I am, you haven't arrived just yet. You'd like to think that you have it together, but the truth of the matter is that you are still struggling with some stuff that you don't want everybody to know about. Imagine going up the side of the mountain and arriving there, and Jesus is lecturing. You've heard all the rumors about this scholar. You've seen some of the evidence of the reality that he has some powers that no other rabbi seems to have. He seems to be capable of opening up the Torah, taking a look at the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, and discovering within it there are some truths that are evident and real to make their lives just a little bit better. And so when they arrive here at the side of the mountain, they are troubled because some of them are crippled and diseased and messed up, and the ones who are not physically messed up have some mental issues that they are dealing with. And so I suggest to you this morning that whereas some of you may not have external difficulties, there are some internal complexions that you are dealing with that nobody else knows about it except for you and Yahweh. Well, I'm sorry, Yahweh is the Hebrew God. Well, he's the God that says that he is capable of creating something out of nothing. He's a God that the Hebrews have accredited as to bringing them across a Red Sea that was an impassable place, so that somewhere in their lives they just couldn't get across a bad situation. I suggest to you this morning that one or two of you here in the context of worship have an impasse in your life that you just can't get through it. You don't know why you feel the way you feel. You don't know why you're experiencing what you're experiencing. You just know that you can't get past that situation that you're in. Well, I stopped by to serve notice this morning that the same God of the Hebrews is the same God that can deliver you out of your situation. Is that good news this morning? And so examining the text, because I don't want to run on too fast, but I want to make sure that you understand here in this text, the first verse has suggested that as he comes down the mountainside, he's encountered by, of all the people, a man who just happens to be a leper. Imagine that. Now I ask myself, because remember I told you, whenever a preacher is examining the text, he or she should always look at the text and ask some questions. I asked myself the question, was he on the side of the mountain? I'm talking about the leper. When Jesus was dialoguing and teaching on certain issues of complexities that the Hebrews were dealing with, was he there listening to what Jesus had to say? Did he have a personal encounter with him? Or was he delayed and waited there at the foot of the mountain the whole time that Jesus was there? I asked the question, if this is vitally important, why in the world did Matthew give him a name? And Matthew hollered back at your boy and said, look, Smith, informed them on Sunday morning that the name was unnecessary. It was the dilemma that he faced that I wanted you to see. It wasn't about who he was, but it was about where he was. He was on the side of the mountain waiting for Jesus to return because he had a situation that he could not handle on his own. Is there anybody in the house this morning? You've been waiting tenaciously for God to show up in the midst of your situation so that somehow you could be relieved of whatever it is you're facing. God is willing to come down momentarily to help you out of it. Now, please know that the complexities that he's facing here is that according to the Levitical law, a person who has leprosy has no right being in close proximity. He never should have been within a stone's throw from the people who are on the mountain. Or he has some situations in his personal life that it may be contagious. But what if the symbolism in the text would suggest that not only is he leprous, but the leprous situation of the man is indicative of your sin. If in fact there are leprous situations in the man's life who is nameless, and he's not supposed to be in close proximity, and if in fact it is symbolism to suggest that leprosy denotes sin, that there's a good chance that God doesn't want my sinful nature to infect your sinful nature. If in fact there is a sin in your life, why in the world are we continuing? You notice I flipped that real quick from your to our. Because I did not want to exclude myself because I still got some stuff that's leprous as well. And so have you. And so before you become too self-righteous and too holy, you better recognize that you got some stuff that you're on the side of the mountain headed towards God expecting some deliverance, but you still got a situation that you can't relieve yourself of. Is there anybody in the house this morning that you know that you've had some stuff that you just couldn't get out of? I'm aware that you are holy. I'm aware that you are attempting to live right and attempting to live better. Something tells me that this man on the side of the mountain waiting patiently for Jesus has assumed that he's done the best that he could, but he still needs some help. I tried to live as righteously as I possibly could. I tried to be holy, but every now and then, there slips in a moment I'm no different from your writer of your New Testament, Paul, because Paul says that which I should not do. I do. Yeah. Come on, y'all better talk to me this morning. That's the very thing I find myself doing. That I should do, I don't do. Oh, wretched man that I am. And so for some of you who are holy, some of you who are so self-righteous that you don't have any problems, any challenges, let me address those of you who do recognize that you still got some stuff you're dealing with, and you're on the side of the mountain and you're just waiting for Jesus to come down. And when he does come down, there's this thing that light and darkness cannot comprehend the same spot at the same time. It cannot occupy it right there together. And so when Jesus comes down, all of a sudden, the darkness in the leper's life must be expelled. And so when Jesus comes along, the evidence is that whatever it is that's in your life, God is saying, I'm going to expel it from you. So we got to stop faking it when we show up on the side of the mountain as though we got it all together. We got to stop showing up assuming that we are better than somebody else just because our sin is not the same sin as somebody else's sin. The reality of it is you got some stuff that you need to get rid of, and the only person that can help you to get rid of it is Jesus. I'm almost finished, but I'm still talking about evidence. I do recognize that all of us believe that there is an ultimate reality. There is a God who looms larger than life itself. There is a God who's bigger than absolutely any and everything. The Jews indeed refer to him as Yahweh because their suggestion is that God's name is absolutely so holy that you ought not be pronouncing it. I do understand that the Buddhists would suggest that there is a God and he is Brahman, and they really don't want to, or not attempting to lead you to a God, but rather to help you to understand that you have an awesome power within you to get out of the situation that you're in. I do understand that the Hindus would suggest that there are 300 million gods that are present and they can help you out of your situation if you just accept them, whatever God it is you have. But for those of us who are Christian and we perceive that our God's name is Jehovah, we do perceive that our God is bigger than absolutely any situation. We acknowledge that there are others who say that there are gods, but we believe that our God is the only true God. We are monotheistic in our belief. We believe that there is just one true and living God, and that God is capable of taking us out of any situation. I'm almost finished. I just wanted to make sure that we understood that the mountain is indicative of going up to where God wants to meet up with us. It's the side of the mountain. It's a lecturing spot, but it's the same place that God wants to meet up with you this morning. You may be among the crowd, but there are other people who are seeking God's presence and healing virtue. And so you might get in somebody else's way, but just make your way to God anyhow. Because if you can get to God, God's got something for you. I'm not going to stop you from getting to God. I can't stop you. You can't stop me from getting to God. Just go towards God. It's the side of the mountain. Jesus is coming down. The crowd that went up with him are now coming down. If they've gone up to worship, they've gone up to seek God, and they've sought God, and God has blessed them, there are still other people who are waiting to be blessed. Is there anybody here at the foot of the mountain this morning that's still waiting for God to bless them? If there's anybody here this morning, you've gone up the mountain, you come down the mountain. You've gone up the mountain, you come down the mountain. Is there anybody here this morning that you can acknowledge that you are just waiting to meet up with Jesus so that somehow he can speak to your situation? Now I like this because my Jesus is bigger than any predicament. He just broke the law according to the Levites because when the leper came, Jesus didn't say, step back, you're too close. He didn't say, I'm too clean, I'm too holy. The text says that he reached out his hand and touched him in spite of his predicament. I came to declare to you this morning that Jesus said to you, he stretched out his hand, and his demand was, be clean. I've got to close it right here. I've already informed you that the man had a need. He knew where to get help for his situation, so he went to Jesus. Jesus will never repel you or tell you he can't help you, but he will always reach out to you. And so whatever it is you're dealing with, however difficult it has become, know this, that Jesus is reaching out to you. Now the question is, what is it that you desire? He says, I know that if you want to, you can make me clean. The declaration is that I'm dirty. I'm filthy. I need you to help me. Is there anybody in the house this morning that's dirty, that's filthy, and you need to be clean? Jesus said, I will be clean. The awesome piece is, Jesus really didn't have to touch it. He could have just spoke. But for the sake of the Israelites and their demands and their laws, Jesus was overriding the status quo and saying, you know what? I got power and priority over the situation, and I can touch and still be clean. When he's clean immediately, Jesus says, now go, but don't tell anybody, but declare to the priest what's happened by giving them a sacrifice. It was evidence that he had been with the Lord. My question to you this morning is there any evidence in your life that you've never been with the Lord? Because if you've been with him, your walk should be different. Your talk should be different. Your attitude should be different. There should be evidence that you have been touched by Jesus. You ain't got to tell it. Forgive my English. You ain't got to go around and declare it. There is evidence in the way you walk, and the way you live, and the way you love. Come on, stand with me this morning. You should have some evidence in your life that declares you've met up with Jesus. Let me go around telling people I'm a Christian. It's declared by how I live. I like to tell people I'm a pastor. My name is Jim Smith. My name is not Dr. Smith. My mama didn't name me doctor. My mama didn't name me reverend. Those are titles that were bestowed upon me because there was some evidence that had been shown to suggest, first off, that I was a Christian. And then being called out from the called out to become under shepherd. And then it was evidence that because I matriculated at a few institutions, God bestowed upon me some degrees that would suggest that he had studied somewhere, and there was evidence God wanted to do something through me. That's some evidence in your life. People are watching because they're trying to find out. Has she met up with Jesus? Has he met up with Jesus? And if so, I think I want to mimic what they're doing. Every head bowed. If you are here